Like, how am I supposed to feel bad that people are complaining about Tesla dealerships being burned down, but then they're clapping when people are being deported without due process from this country? I have absolutely no sympathy. And the fact that they can keep doing this hand-wringing of like, the left is so bad and they won't disavow these people, even though the left has to disavow its own side all the time. When Biden...
I don't see any of the left doing that, though.
I don't know how much you're looking at.
Well, I watch your show.
Okay, well, Biden
example,
literally...
you didn't even disavow the assassination of Donald Trump, bro.
I wish. It was the assassination attempt, okay?
Oh, yeah, the assassination...
I'm just kidding. Hey,
but am I right there, Destiny? Come on, man. Come on, man.
Just jokes. So you can have a standard for my behavior. You can talk about whether my behavior is over the line or not, but I think it's very different when you compare the behavior of somebody in government versus me, who's like a pundit.
You're a guy that has more influence than politicians. That's my point.
Yeah, but it's a different type
and
of
the vast
influence.
majority.
It's a different type of influence, though, right?
What's the difference?
There's a different expectation for behavior for things that that I would have versus somebody who's part of the government. Would you agree, or do you think it's the same?
I would agree that your influence would actually affect people's behavior more so than some random person.
No, it's not. It's about the expectation of like behavior or what would be proper. So if I was an elected official and I was working in the executive branch, it means something a lot different for me to say I hate this judge than if I was just like a pundit and I was like I hate this judge.
Right.
Those are so you can have a totally different standard expectation of behavior regardless of how many people you influence or not, just based on the role that you occupy.
Yeah. Well, I get you there, but like my point is that I think you have way more influence than the vast majority of politicians. So that's why I'm saying like when you shoot the rhetoric when Corey, fucking don't even remember the guy's last name, Corey something, I don't know, but he passed away and you were stating something and you doubled down on Pierce Morgan. You said, fuck Corey, fuck his supporters, etc. I think also with your rhetoric, when you were stating that stuff, I think that leaned a lot of people watching that sit and said, Destiny's a fucking psychopath. I don't want to vote for Kamala Harris or the Democratic Party.
Yeah, but at some point, it like, I don't want to change the diaper of a 25-year-old. Like, for somebody to go online and to be making like all of these jokes, as Dave Rubin had, and he was on that episode with me, about the guy, the psychotic dude, that broke into Pelosi's house and was like, with a fucking hammer, was smacking this dude. It was insane and unhinged. And then again, to like have the tears whenever it happens on their side, I think I would rather be unhinged and force the conversation than have to live in this world where the left constantly has to apologize for all of its own stuff and the right pretends that nothing ever happens on their side.
But I feel like he's introduced the idea of stronger tariffs, and especially against China. I hope a number of them stick.
I mean, I can introduce the idea of parachutes by pushing somebody off a building, but that doesn't make it a good idea.
Right.
Like, it's none of the goals I think you set out all of them are being pushed against now. Right? The United States is probably less secure right now. Would you agree with that? If we are less coordinating with Europe, if less people are buying stuff from us, I think some people have already canceled like F-35 orders and stuff. So we're probably less secure. We're shipping and coordinating less militarily with people. We've made people to the north and south of us feel very uncomfortable because Donald Trump kept talking about taking over fucking parts of Canada or Greenland.
Yep. Okay.
So I feel like we're less secure now than we were before.
Well, so here's my problem, right? We have a number of really high-value military assets, but they take a very long time to build. And I think the war in Ukraine, we've seen, they can be defeated by mass-produced, like low-tech, like en masse, like, for instance, like the FPV, like drone assaults.
So the drone assaults are really good at defeating, no offense, but like Ukrainian soldiers that are doing battle from ditches. I don't think the drones could be defeating F-35s shooting missiles from 20 miles away. Like, yeah, they can beat Ukraine, but Ukraine's Air Force, I think, consists of like the extras from the Top Gun 2 set right now. Again, no offense to Ukraine, but like, I don't think that war would be a model for what it would look like for the United States. I think that the second Gulf War is probably a closer model to when the United States was to go to war with somebody But I would say that the biggest issue when it comes to looking at Donald Trump breaking rules is his lack of a coherent plan or his lack of like vision for what he's trying to do. Sometimes ends up, like shooting himself in the foot as opposed to actually being able to take advantage of the thing that he's done. So for instance, like I kind of say that as a backhanded compliment when people say, well, what was good about Trump? And I'll say, oh, well, Operation Warp Speed. And the reason why it's a backhanded compliment is because Trump doesn't take credit for Operation Warp Speed anymore because he poisoned his entire audience against the vaccine such that when you say it saved lives, it did. It saved Democratic lives because in general, Democrats are more likely to get vaccinated than Republicans were. It doesn't seem to be a movement rooted in conservatism at all. And like all of your traditional conservative values are totally absent now, I think, in the MAGA movement. So
he was a Democrat at some point.
Yeah.
But like, so the People's Temple, I don't know if you read too much on that, but like there was a serious thing that happened. It's where the phrase "drink the Kool-Aid." I encourage everybody to read that, right? Lots of people, almost 1,000 people. Like I don't even know if I could say it.
I would say more people probably died than the Kool-Aid drinkers than people who didn't get vaccinated. I would compare that to.
Well, that's another thing. It's like Trumpers. A lot of Trumpers like didn't take the vaccine, and that's what
vaccines now, right?
Yeah, but that's what he made with Warp Speed. Like,
yeah, kind of weird. I think he's incredibly narcissistic. Just from the brief summary or reading I had of other fascist figures, like I don't think Hitler was just out for himself. I think he did have some vision of like whatever.
Like post World War I with the Treaty of Versailles, right? Like he wanted to.
Sure, yeah, I don't think Donald Trump has a vision for America at all that isn't just like self-service.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm getting at is that his underlying motivation and overriding principle for anything is ultimately his own ego.
Sure. I don't think I would necessarily disagree with that, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it ascribes more political or intelligent or ideological malice than Donald Trump is actually capable of when we call him a fascist.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. I don't think I usually call him a fascist. If I do, I'm just trying to trigger conservatives. Usually I say he's very selfish. I feel like the last conversation I had on this is I said I don't think he's a fascist because I don't think he's smart enough to be a fascist. I don't even think he has the brain for that kind of stuff.
True, he's just politically illiterate.
Like we literally have a $5 million immigration card with a golden picture of Trump on it right now, which is absolutely insane to me. What would you have possibly been afraid of from Kamala that you think like supersedes any of the stuff or the totality of that's happened so far with Trump?
Well, honestly, to me, my biggest reason for not voting for Kamala, there was no primary for her, and the whole reason
why would that have to do with whether or not you thought she would have been a better candidate?
Because it wasn't really that. It was more so the fact that I heard a lot of what are the problems, or I guess not problems, worries about Joe Biden from the right when he was running, that he would, ban guns or about like a lot of crazy things. And then I heard a lot of crazy things about Donald Trump. And I just put them up against each other. And I'm like, well, these things could come true or we might do okay.
Okay, but I'm like curious, if you look at the record, so Trump banned bump stocks.
Yeah.
Biden didn't take our guns.
Yes.
So I feel like it's 1 point for Biden.
Yes.
What was another issue that we were worried about between Biden and Trump? Biden got the infrastructure bill passed. Trump wanted to do that and wasn't able to. Donald Trump will tell you what he thinks the law is all the time. So if Donald Trump decides to deport a citizen and he says, well, I think that in the Constitution it says naturalized citizens don't count as people who like came here and were lawful permanent residents and then were naturalized under citizens, I don't think they count. Then that's the scary part, I think, from our end is that Trumpers will say, oh, well, as long as it's following the law, and he says it's following the law, therefore he can do that. And it's like, well, in that case, we can basically justify anything. Yeah. Sometimes you'd have people and you disagree politically on things, but I've seen so many people now in my own subreddit, I've gotten emails, and I've had it personally happen to me with personal friends where somebody sends you a message and they're like, hey, did you see this thing on Candace Owens? Or did you see this thing on that RFK said? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh God. And inevitably, 6 months later, it'll be like, did you know that Israel not only did 9/11, but they were also in charge of the train derailment? And did you know that blah, blah, blah? And it's like, they're gone. Like, and it's this weird world because people ask me like, how do you get a person out of this? And you have to treat it basically like, I would say like an abusive relationship or a cult where you can be kind of like supportive and loving, but that's it. There's nothing that you can say or do. There is no fact that can permeate the force field or the shield of all the Trump stuff. And I think that's why I view it as a cult. And it's how I think people have to kind of approach people that get sucked into it. Canada and Mexico, which was an actual trade deal, is blown up now. Yeah. And then we are, how many days into
what do you mean it's blown up? Like, how's it blown up?
Well, he started arbitrarily tariffing them in contrary to what...
Well, it wasn't arbitrary.
Well, it wasn't agreed upon in the trade deal. So, for instance, one of the things we bullied Canada a lot for was their tariffs on products once they reached a certain threshold of import in Canada. That was part of Trump's...
Well, you do realize that the reason why we had that with Canada is because Canada has a big fentanyl problem coming into America, right?
Well, no, I'm just talking about the trade deal. Trump pointed out Canadian tariffs that he didn't like for U.S. products. That was part of Trump's trade deal.
Yeah.
So if Trump isn't even happy with his own trade deals, and that was with just 2 countries. How is he supposed to negotiate 90 new trade deals? I think he's got what, like a couple of weeks left, and we've got 0.
What do you mean he's got a couple of weeks left? What do
He
you
said,
mean?
didn't he say? Am I making this? Did he say 90 deals in 90 days, or am I making that
Oh
up?
yeah. But honestly speaking, they always roll that back, don't they? Like they always say 90 days, and then it's the next 90 days.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we've got tariffs that are kicking everybody's ass, and like nobody likes us anymore. Like the whole world thinks we're.
Well, it doesn't matter if anyone likes us. The whole. Not gonna lie, I feel like I should have a big "I fell for it" ribbon.
All roads lead to Rome, where no matter what Trump does, there's always a way to justify it. And I think that's one of the scariest, I don't know if you call it a cultish aspect to it, that is frightening to me. Biden had a really disastrous debate performance. Republicans celebrated and Democrats cowered in fear. It was horrible. We all felt that. And after that, that debate performance was so bad that basically the entire Democratic establishment pushed Biden away from running for the presidency again. I don't think that Trump could do anything like that that would ever cause Republicans to push him away. And I think that's been demonstrated on at least 5 or 6 different occasions over the past few months. The tariffs one being one of the larger ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because and I started kind of asking this question to people like, is there anything that Trump could do that you think would be over the line for, maybe not necessarily for you, but for over half of the Trump supporters?
Over half. I'm sure there are things, like if he did something crazy, like illegal and obvious.
With group, well, I'm going to say there have been crazy things and obvious things, like not bringing back Abrego Garcia. I would say is pretty crazy.